Okay, good morning, people. So, we are looking at the processes of respiration. In general, the breakdown of glucose, which was synthesized in the photosynthesis process, is called as respiration. And then a chemical breakdown happens in two different steps that we had seen. One was called as glycolysis, that is from glucose to pyruvate, which is 6 carbon to 3 carbon compound. And that happens in the cytoplasm because most of these enzymes, they are present in the cytoplasmic space. And then Krebs cycle, which is the next step after glycolysis, in which this 3 carbon compound is broken to the 1 carbon compound, that is carbon dioxide. And this reaction happens in mitochondria. And we had seen different characteristic of this whole respiration process. First was breakdown of glucose to carbon dioxide. Second was each particular step happens with a particular enzyme because and it is a multi-step procedure. It's not like how we write in the equation that glucose plus oxygen is equal to or gives rise to carbon dioxide and water with energy. So this is like one step reaction. What we are showing, but in general, it is like quite a few steps throughout the process. And the third point in the importance of respiration or the characteristics of respiration is the energy is liberated in the form of adenosine triphosphate molecule, which is a form of chemical energy. And like I had also shown you that how adenosine triphosphate stores the energy in the phosphate group. So once the phosphate is removed from triphosphate, it becomes diphosphate, that is 2-phosphate, and that will release the certain amount of energy. So I guess that is what we had seen so far, and I had also shown you this representative image where this is the cytoplasmic space. Now this is mitochondrial structure. Glycolysis happens in cytoplasm, glucose to pyruvate or pyruvic acid, it's the same. It's just like how we call a particular acetic acid, and then we can also call it acetate as an ion. So that is what is glucose to pyruvic acid or pyruvate. Both of these pyruvate and pyruvic acid are same. Will give 2 ATP. Then that pyruvic acid will enter mitochondria, will follow the Krebs cycle. It will synthesize 1 carbon compound, that is carbon dioxide, will generate the chemical energy in the form of 36 ATP. So the total output of one molecule of glucose is 38, 2 plus 36. And the byproduct at the end of the reaction is CO2. Okay, yeah, so this is what we had not looked at. So we'll start from here for today's class. So when the energy is used in the form of ATP, that ATP is converted into ADP. Like I said, adenosine diphosphate, ATP. So the reaction, if you have to write, you always write ATP, then arrow with ADP plus PI, that is 1 phosphate molecule, and that is the complete reaction. And again, when more energy is available or by further breakdown of glucose, this ADP is reconverted into ATP. So this is like a cycle. ADP will get converting into ATP. Whenever there is a need, ATP will be broken down to ADP. Again, it will be resynthesized and so on. So this goes on within the cell. Yes, Yashnesh?
So when ATP is converted to ADP, where is the 1-phosphate radical stored?
It is in the cytoplasmic space only or mitochondrial space.
So will there be a lot of phosphate
Not
in the cytoplasm?
That is what I am saying. At one time point, ATP is getting synthesized, and at the other time point, or at the simultaneously, the ATP is also getting broken down. So the amount of phosphate is kind of maintained within the cell. At some places it is being used up, or at some places it is being given up. So that way, like both reaction keep on happening. So ADP and ATP along with the phosphate, they kind of coexist with each other. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the reconversion of ADP into ATP after its breakdown. Now, like I mentioned, this is completely wrong statement. One molecule of ATP, no, one molecule of glucose on complete oxidation. So, one molecule of glucose, like I showed you in the earlier reaction, upon complete oxidation yields 38 ATP, and that is what is shown here. One molecule of glucose, this is the complete oxidation product, that means it's completely broken down. So it yields 2 plus 36, that is 38 ATP molecule. So you can imagine, and also there are some references to calculate in terms of kilocalorie. I guess that's somewhere, I will refer to it later. But again, that may not give much idea, because we don't know how much 1 kilocalorie is in general. Like, of course, we know in terms of exercise, but otherwise, in terms of evaluating the energy, we may not know that. So ATP, like I had mentioned in the last class, is also called as energy currency of the cell. And why? Because it provides all the requirements of the energy within the cell. So respiration is the catabolic process, and catabolic, we'll see what catabolic is in the last line. It's the catabolic process of releasing energy from simple sugar, that is glucose, for carrying out the life processes. So in general, within the particular organism, there are two types of activities that keeps on happening. One is anabolic and the second one is catabolic. You might have heard the term, those who aspire to go to gym and build muscles, they might have heard term anabolic, or at least anabolic steroids, right? So there is something called as these anabolic steroids, which are used for building muscles. And again, that's very harmful in a way for the body. But yeah, anabolic means something to build on, something to construct, or all those biosynthetic processes which synthesize the macromolecules. So let's say I have one protein molecule, or I need to synthesize a protein molecule within the body. That will be called as anabolic process, because it is making that protein. And if it is degrading the protein or breaking the protein, that is called as catabolic process. Same goes with the carbohydrate, fat, or any other molecule, DNA, RNA, and so on. If they are getting formed or synthesized, that will be called as anabolic process. And if they are getting broken down, that will be called as catabolic process. And that is what is included in the metabolism. So when we say my metabolism, like within the body is so and so, then we talk of both of these processes, anabolic as well as catabolic. So most of the people, those who say that my BMR is very high, that means their rate of anabolic reaction is less and the rate of catabolic reaction is faster. So the degradation of molecules is faster and the rate of synthesis is slower. And those who are on the other side, like they gain weight quite fast. So in those like humans, I would say, the anabolic reactions, they are more, and the catabolic reactions, they are less. So I hope you are getting the difference between what is anabolic and catabolic. If anyone has any question, you can ask. What's your anabolic, catabolic, clear, or sleepy mode?
So, what do you mean by it gives out energy for use by the organism?
Which one?
For catabolic. It gives out energy for use by the organism.
So usually in anabolic, when you are synthesizing a compound, you need a bond formation, right? So bond formation will need energy. In catabolic, it's bond breaking. So that will release energy. So all those other processes which needs energy, they will gain it from the catabolic processes because they are releasing energy. So it gives out energy for the use of for use by the organism in terms of life processes. Okay. So I guess, yeah, I guess you can still see this. So in general, the definition, difference between the respiration and combustion. Combustion, like I had explained, something like that burns. That is what is called as combustion. So in the respiration, glucose is broken down in the living cells with the process called respiration. While combustion of the substances such as wood or kerosene releases lots of energy. This is like utilizing certain like chemicals to burn or causing the combustion of that compound, and then it releases energy. Inside the cell within respiration, many chemicals, they participate in long chain reactions for the breakdown of glucose into simpler substances, that is carbon dioxide like components, and the energy that is generated is saved in the form of ATP. In this combustion process, it is not the process that takes place within our cells. There is no burning that happens inside the cells. Relatively, these processes, they are similar, because this also releases lots of energy, that is combustion, and respiration also releases energy in the form of ATP. But this combustion does not happen within the cells. Respiration takes place in a controlled manner inside the cells. This is an uncontrolled process, like again, a burning or combustion is an uncontrolled process. Heat is produced in the cellular respiration, and the rate of respiration increases during exercise, or we feel, and then we feel warmer. So usually when we respire a lot, ultimately we inhale oxygen. It goes to the cells. It is broken down. It uses lot of, it breaks down certain compounds. Then it releases that energy that is being utilized for, let's say, muscle movement during exercise and so on. And that heat which is generated, that is the reason why we feel warmer, right? So that is the general process. And the energy that is produced is like waste, and also in terms of heat. But again, this is outside the cell or outside the body. So that way there are quite a few points. I guess you can read it on your own. These are relatively very, very simpler things. One of the difference that you just need to know is the ATP and no ATP. Energy is generated in both of these processes. Yeah, so now one thing that we know of is the entire plant respires. Entire plant means all of the cells within the plant, they do respiration. And how does that happen? So that is what we'll see on this part. So in general, there are different tissues which are present within the plant, including your leaf, stem, root, and deepest part of the tissues and so on. But whatever is on the surface, like especially in the leaf, which is very thinner, that will absorb the oxygen, and then that will carry out the process of photosynthesis. And this oxygen is obtained from the atmosphere through 3 inlets or 3 mechanisms inside the plant. Like we have only one mechanism of absorption of oxygen, that is through like inhalation or through lungs. Plants, they have different mechanism. First one is the stomata in the leaves. Have you heard of this term, stomata? Yes, no? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Stomata.
So stomata.
Tiny holes in leaves.
Yeah, so stomata is that particular opening which is protected by the guard cells, and that allows the exchange of certain gases. So stomata and guard cells. Not Sabrina leaf. It's a type of plant. Yeah. So this is a typical structure of stomata. So this is like whole of it is leaf. I guess one of the picture showed really well. No, okay, fine. This is okay. And whenever these guard cells, they are swollen, that the opening inside will be there. Otherwise, when they are not swollen, or what we call a sunken stage, that's when the opening is like kind of closed, or the stomata is closed. So that's how it's like kind of opening. And this is present on the lower surface of the leaf. So within the leaf, there are different layers: epidermis, cortex, or mesophyll, and then lower epidermis. So within the lower epidermis, there are quite many of these stomata, like you can see here. All these other cells, they are on the lower surface of the leaf, and then you have kind of guard cells with the stomata. So that is the general mechanism through which the exchange of gases happen, including the oxygen. So whatever carbon dioxide is produced in the plant will be exhaled out, especially at the night time, from the plants, and the oxygen will be taken in as an exchange with the carbon dioxide, and that happens through the stomata in leaves. Something similar is present as lenticels in the stem. Again, I'm sure you would have seen this lenticels in stem. Something like this on the stem of a plant, or even like this. You can see these kind of structures. This one is very good image. So these kind of structures, they are called as lenticels, and they are present in quite a few plants. This is one of the typical plant. This is called as Katesaur. I don't know the English name, but it literally has too many spines on it, and that functions like, so all these structures, they are called as lenticels, which are present on the stem, and they also have kind of opening through a tubular network, so that the gases can be exchanged from there on the stem surface. And the surface of the root, again in this case, like whatever oxygen is dissolved through the perforated or porous soil. Oxygen is obviously present in the perforated or porous soil, and that is when that oxygen gets exchanged from the surface cells of the root. Again, that is also an epidermis of the root. So there are these three mechanisms through which oxygen is exchanged. So we know this plowing and tiling of the soil creates tiny air spaces, right? Because we change the layers of the soil, so that makes soil more porous, and it creates these tiny air spaces around the soil particle, and that is how it provides the source of oxygen to the root. Now, if at all it is waterlogged or compact soil, like for example, river soil is usually very compact because it's kind of sticky, it does not have much of pores, and that is why it will affect the respiration in the roots, because it does not allow the oxygen to entrap within the soil. So that is the case with this waterlogged or compact soil. So in general, during the daytime, due to this photosynthesis process, it produces oxygen, and it is excreted or secreted out of the leaf structure, and some of which can be used in the process of respiration, because in respiration glucose has to be broken down. So photosynthesis will synthesize glucose and oxygen. This glucose is broken down in the next process of respiration, and that oxygen is utilized to some extent, and rest of the oxygen is thrown out of the plant. The carbon dioxide produced during the respiration in the leaves also serve as the raw material for the photosynthesis. Again, so this is like a cyclic process. Respiration will give out what we call as carbon dioxide that can be reutilized for the photosynthesis process. And again, photosynthesis will release oxygen that can be utilized for the respiration process. So it goes on. So in general, it is said that at night, even the leaves obtain oxygen from the atmosphere. And the reason being, because at night, a lot of respiration has to happen of the glucose that has been produced throughout the day by the process of photosynthesis, and then gives out carbon dioxide as the byproduct. and therefore it is recommended not to sleep under a tree at night. Again, that is still a kind of questionable, but it is best that not to sleep at night under a tree because a lot of carbon dioxide will be generated and people might feel suffocated or they might die. Again, that's a rare situation, but that can happen. Again, any question, anyone?
Won't they get to know that there's a
Yeah, they will. But that's when I said it's a kind of very rare situation. People have used laptop.
Sir.
Okay. Then the next is the types of respiration. Now this is very interesting considering like the exercises that a human does as well, right? Though these processes, they do happen in the plants as well as other species. So that we'll see in types of respiration. So the first one is the aerobic and the second one is anaerobic. So that in simple terms, it means one is in presence of oxygen and anaerobic means in absence of oxygen. So in aerobic respiration, free oxygen is used in the respiration process and there is a complete oxidation of glucose with the formation of carbon dioxide. That is what we had seen so far. That is aerobic respiration. So C6H12O6 glucose plus 6 molecules of oxygen will break down it completely to a single carbon compound, that is carbon dioxide and water, and 38 ATPs are generated. That is the complete oxidation of glucose. And respiration proceeds only when, like aerobic respiration will proceed only when oxygen is available. And therefore it is called as aerobic or oxybiotic respiration. On the contrary, anaerobic respiration occurs in the absence of oxygen. That means when oxygen is not available. So certain parts of the plant, like for example, fruits and seeds, they may temporarily respire even in the absence of oxygen. Because, or even in terms of deep tissues within the plant, they don't have much of oxygen because the oxygen has to diffuse from the outermost layers to the innermost layers, and that's why the oxygen availability will be less. And in those cases, Yajnesh, I'll come back to you. So in those cases where oxygen is less, the glucose is incompletely broken down. Here, aerobic, complete breakdown, anaerobic, incomplete breakdown, and the byproduct is ethanol, or what we call as ethyl alcohol, along with the carbon dioxide, and with a release of very small quantity of energy. So anoxybiotic or anaerobic respiration also involves glucose incompletely broken down to ethanol plus carbon dioxide, and only 2 molecules of ATP are generated. You can see a huge difference in presence of oxygen and in absence of oxygen. Yes, Yajnesh?
Yeah, sir. So, like some animals in the bottom of the ocean, small ones, they also anaerobic. They do anaerobic respiration.
Yes, some of them. But in most of those cases, they have the ability to take dissolved oxygen from the water. Right?
So, sir, like big animals, like humans or dogs or cats, they can't, like big animals can't do anaerobic respiration.
No, within our body also anaerobic respiration happens. I will tell you that part in just in a bit. But yes, that does happen. Anaerobic respiration happens in all those cells wherever aerobic respiration happens. It just one is presence of oxygen and anaerobic is absence of oxygen. But both of these processes can happen in the same organism. Like for example, human. or even in case of plant. Yes, here.
Yeah, so in seventh we learned that in humans or animals when anaerobic
A little louder, please, here.
Sir, in seventh we learned that when in humans or animals when anaerobic respiration takes place, lactic acid is formed. So what is formed in the plants?
So lactic acid is one of the mid product, I would say. That lactic acid is further broken down into ethanol type of compound or carbon dioxide type of compound, and then that is being either some of these molecules, they are being reutilized for synthesis, or they can be released out of the body in human, and same is the case with the plants also. And that's what your question was, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let me come back to that lactic acid part actually. So when we do a lot of physical exercise and we fail to breathe continuously, that's when a kind of muscle tweak or what we call a sprain like sometimes the muscle gets so tight that it fails to move any further, right? So in such cases, that is where the anaerobic respiration has happened. Lactic acid starts accumulating in these muscles, and that is when this pain or even the failure of the muscle movement, this kind of situation can occur, and that is the result of anaerobic respiration. And this does happen commonly within the people who don't do physical exercise often. And also if they have certain breathing or respiration problem, then of course this kind of situation occur. Yeah. So Yajnesh, to your question, this does happen within the human being, especially like if you are, let's say you are running 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, and you don't breathe enough. That's when this anaerobic respiration will start happening, because body will still need energy to run, and that energy will be obtained by the anaerobic respiration. Though this situation is kind of rare because we have enough oxygen within one inhalation and also from the metabolic processes. But still this lactic acid formation can happen at the anaerobic situations. Any questions? Okay, I guess I will, no, let me just say this and then we will stop. So this is kind of summary of all of what we had looked at. So glycolysis, if it happens in anaerobic way, it will lead to the fermentation, right? That is what we had seen in terms of ethanol production or the lactic acid formation. But if it is going via the pathway of the regular course of glycolysis, that is aerobic, it will form oxygen present, then it will go through the Krebs cycle, oxidative phosphorylation. Again, you need not remember these terms, but it will generate 36 plus 2 ATP. That is the normal course of oxidation. This fermentation is not for this arrow, by the way. This is for the pyruvic acid, and this part is called as fermentation, this green color coding thing, right? And this breakdown of the glucose is actually aerobic. So I guess I shouldn't put this diagram because this will confuse. Yeah, glycolysis is actually in the aerobic process, because that's where the breakdown of the glucose happens through this pathway, and that is 36. Because we are not looking at the individual steps, and this breakdown actually does not need oxygen, rather this breakdown needs. So from pyruvate to carbon dioxide, that is what needs the oxygen. So that is why this is called as anaerobic here. But then still this whole process we are referring to as aerobic respiration. I hope you got what I mean to say. Yeah, so that's it we will stop here for now. Next is actually the experiments that we are going to look at. And I guess that will be the end of this chapter. There are, I guess, 3 or 4 experiments which talks about what is the use of particular oxygen and so on in terms of respiration process. Yes.
We do the experiments in the bio.
Yeah, we can.
Can we dissect something?
Yeah, we can dissect. You.
Yeah,